You know, these days TNT dupers are becoming a lot cheaper. You know, we have the standard slime and coral fan one there. Then there's the fanless one over here. Then there's one that uses, you know, no observers or no slime or any silk touch materials right over there. But there's one problem in that a lot of players out there either A, don't like TNT duping, or play on servers where TNT duping is not allowed. Now, true, you could simply just replace a TNT duper with a dispenser that drops TNT. You know, but if you're going to drop it every 4 seconds on a lot of your farms, especially those random TIG ones or those, you know, the ones that don't have a constant item stream input, it's just going to burn a lot of TNT. And you may not feel that you want to burn an entire, you know, dispenser worth of TNT for a tree. So today we're going to look at a way to get the max efficiency out of your TNT if you don't want to use a TNT duper for whatever the reason may be. It's a dirt cheap blast chamber. Let's get to it. So like I said in the intro, there are a lot of players out there, especially these days, that just don't like the TNT duping anymore. My personal favorite ones have no problem with the concept of TNT duping. It's just that they don't like it for their world. They want the additional challenge of not using the TNT duping. So people like the guy on Twitch and Ilmango, they're just kind of setting this personal challenge for themselves for a couple reasons. One, because TNT duping has go away, and it's still a dupe, you know? So you're still getting something infinite for no resource input. But at the same time, I still like them because they don't just rip other people to shreds for using TNT dupers. There are people out there that will just absolutely lay into people for using a TNT duper. I don't like them. It's your world. You should be able to play how you want, as long as you are not misinforming your audience about what the situation is or lying about the process, you know, such as dying in hardcore and not saying you did. Then I have no problem with that. So I do want to support that because a lot of my dirt cheap stuff is using this Snow Golem TNT duper right here, just because it is a dirt cheap TNT dupe build. But what if you don't want to use TNT duping? That's where this bad boy comes in. Now, two things before I get further into this. First thing being, this design has some issues, specifically that this is very timing based. So this is really dependent on blocks that either have a low blast resistance or blocks that are going to have a very specific time incoming. So you can see over here, I have a bot representing a player that's just placing blocks at a very specific speed. So the concept of this started off of seeing Ilmango's blast chamber and wanting to make a dirt cheap version. So spoiler alert, Ilmango did give me a schematic for his blast chamber. We're going to be reviewing that a little later. I made a dirt cheap version of that. That one doesn't have the same timing issues, but I still wanted to include this because you guys know me on this channel. I like kind of coming up with my own designs for things. I do think that content creators should be making their own content. So I am leaving this in, but we are going to review a dirt cheap version of Ilmango's blast chamber as well, which doesn't have this same timing issue. Second thing you may notice is we have ancient debris going into this blast chamber, and you may be asking yourself, well, why are you putting ancient debris in a blast chamber? It has no reason to be there. And wait a minute, ancient debris doesn't blow up anyways because it has a blast resistance. So your TNT is just going to do nothing. Oh, this is because of block 36. So I used ancient debris to test this out with because block 36 has the lowest blast resistance. And so even when ancient debris is block 36, it can be blown up by TNT. And that's how we're getting so much efficiency out of this. So this is blowing up 208 blocks per TNT because the blast resistance is so low. So if I just put down ancient debris and I put down that TNT next to it and blow it up, absolutely nothing's going to happen. There, we just wasted our time. However, I'm going to pause the game right now. I'm going to step forward 78 ticks because TNT takes 80 ticks to go off. And now I'm going to start pushing this block. And what happens when a block gets pushed in Minecraft, during its push process, it's turned into what we call block 36. Block 36 has some very unique properties, and one of the ones being that it has a very low blast resistance. So you can use this so that even your high blast resistant blocks like cobblestone and things like that now have a low blast resistance if they are moving at the same time that the TNT goes off. So I'll turn that off. So tick step 1 and then 1. And we can see it actually blew up there because that block was in motion, so it was turned into block 36 while it was moving. So I was just using that for the testing purpose of this. And There is no reason to put ancient debris into a blast chamber except using it for testing purposes, because then you know that if the ancient debris does not blow up, that you did not blow it up during the operation of moving the pistons. So in the world download, down in the video descriptions will be a world download where you can download everything you're going to see here in the same world and either take schematics for yourself or run through it, make changes, test it out, that type of thing. This is what you're going to get. So this is just a kind of blank version of the blast chamber. And what we can see is it's without any blocks here. And so you can fill it up. But then we also have versions over here. Here's the ancient debris version. So as you can see, it's going through. But here's just a couple of, quick uses you might want to place blocks in for. Like you got a bunch of silk touch deep slate. Now you want cobbled deep slate. Boom, blow it up in a cobbled deep slate. Again, 208 blocks per TNT. That's not bad at all. That's like 30 TNT an hour. Big whoop. Same thing over here. You got a bunch of silk touch stone to turn into cobblestone. Just blow it up. Here I have a dirt to mud converter. So we just added a dirt cheap dirt to mud converter on here. So you'd be placing the dirt inside of there. We can see there, it's just going to hit it with a water bottle as it goes through. And then it's just going to put all the mud in and it's going to blow it up on that cycle. What it's going to do is first it's going to split those blocks up into 2 separate block streams so we can go in on each side, because we need to have a hole down in the center for the TNT to fall into. Then it's going to push those blocks down and blow them up. So what we're using here for our counting is one of those dirt cheap piston feed tape counters. So what we have is we have a bunch of transparent blocks. These don't necessarily need to be transparent blocks because you're not sending redstone anywhere else, but I'm just using fences here to show that, we can really use any block there. And then the position of this block going through these 2 T flip-flops means that this is going to go off, and then these are going to go off. So this is going to go off every 4 times it's going to set off a TNT. So this is going to push down 4 times before it sets off a TNT. Here's a basic concrete converter. I put 2 water sources here because I've used this waterlogged leaf. A lot of times you can see that's converting the powder to concrete. Some people have reported that it doesn't for them. So I don't know if maybe it's like a server issue with some of the, quote unquote server optimizer mods or something. But, we just put some water after that just to show it's just any water, just converting that over. And then once again, you're not using a TNT to blow it up. So you're getting that 208 blocks per TNT. Again, you're not using much depending on the speed at which you're putting things in. And again, if you're adjusting the speed, so right now we're going in at a constant rate here, then you do need to kind of adjust the timings on this. And that's one of the things I kind of want to switch over to here at this point. This right here is Ilmango's blast chamber. This is his latest revision of it. And I talked about it a little bit in the 3 levels of concrete video, but he has done an update since then. And I did want to talk about this. So again, we're using ancient debris just to show that we're blowing up at that right time there. The key benefit of this is it is not timing based at all. So this can just go off at any time. If you have like the world's slowest tree farm, you can still get that TNT efficiency from it. Not only that, but it's actually filling up everything except for just the center slot of the TNT. So now you're getting 240 blocks per TNT instead of 208 from my version. Also, his is faster. This can take in blocks at 4 game ticks because it's using a bunch of 0 ticks. And I'll talk in a moment of why mine's not, and we'll get there. But it's kind of hard not to recommend this version when it has 3 main features that are better than mine. So first of all, it's not timing based because here in the center, if you have something that's off time and like these center blocks aren't going to get pushed down because there's not a new block around it. So say it kind of looks like this when it gets set off, these blocks right here, these are right next to the TNT. So we don't really need to worry exactly about those being block 36 because they're already in the center. If you're doing ancient debris at an offset time, why would you do that? Then it's not going to blow it up because of block 36. But, logs, dirt, concrete, anything like that, if it doesn't push down in the center right here, that's going to be fine. You're still going to blow up those blocks. And that's because he's pushing in from all 4 sides. So the new blocks are coming in this way and then going over here on every single side. So the ones on the sides are always going to get pushed down because there's always going to be fresh blocks there because this is counting based. And it's also using 0 tick pistons, so it's a little bit faster. And by a little bit faster, I mean a lot bit faster. It's like twice as fast. Now, even though you can replicate 0 tick or do single tick pistons with the dirt cheap quote unquote technology, splitting up the blocks becomes a problem here because when you need to set off more than 1 piston with what we normally do with a 0 tick smart piston, that redstone dust signal based on dust order may not be able to update more than 1 piston. Sometimes it'll update 2, sometimes 17. Redstone dust order is frustrating. But what Mango's got here is a zero tick stabilizer. And what this does is it stabilizes that signal inside that tick so that it doesn't matter what the dust order is. And that's how he's updating both of these pistons at the same time using this signal, and can split those up reliably at a much faster speed. Once we get over to these sides, it doesn't need to be zero tick anymore because it's split up here. So it's already split up by 8 game ticks. Just use a repeater to stabilize it for 2 game ticks. Easy, all you need. But unfortunately, that does require some slime, and that kind of takes us out of the rules of the Dirt Cheap. So again, the basic rules of Dirt Cheap are only overworld materials that you can get with an unenchanted irons tool set, and slime, honey, sticky blocks of any kind are exempt as well. We've talked about this before. This much slime would not be that expensive. I mean, it's a slime block and some sticky pistons. That's literally like 2 minutes inside of a swamp to get that. But still, we're leaving that in. So in the world download, if you just turn right over this way, I made a Dirt Cheap of Ilmango's Blast Chamber Farm. This has the same TNT efficiency. It still ticks off block 36, all that type of stuff. It still counts. Again, we're using the piston feed tape counters. The only difference is, in order to stabilize this portion, we had to use the repeater stabilizer. So that means this does slow down then to 8 game ticks. So the speed doesn't matter. If I'm putting them in at random speeds like this, then I'm still going to be able to blow up my blocks, because this is actually, like I said, pushing in from all sides still. So all I did was basically just convert the circuitry. This concept is still completely Ilmango's. So that's why I'm not using this on most of the farms of this video. We are going to use it a couple of times, but I really just recommend Ilmango's Blast Chamber here. It's fast, it's efficient. There's not really a need to reinvent the wheel, but I wanted to do something that fit the Dirt Cheap rules. So these will all also both be in the world download. If you look at the line of blast chambers here and just turn around, they'll be right there. So big thanks to Mango for sharing that with me, letting me create a Dirt Cheap version of that. So over here is the dirt to clay converter, and some of you may know I recently gave Sugarcrafter permission to do a block by block on that, so you may have seen that. This is that same farm. I just made it even more dirt cheap, so I just took out the observers. I made it completely observerless, and then we're still using that same blast chamber. Now the issue with this is you spit out 12 blocks at a time, and the blast chamber needs to take in a single block stream. So I had to make this. This is a block conveyor that is dirt cheap, but it is not that fast. So if we push in our 12 block push limit from up top, so there we've got our 12 blocks, this can then turn it from coming down in that direction in 12 blocks at a time. So let's say, you're up like this into a sideways stream. So here I'm going to go ahead and activate this. So what this is going to do is it's going to stick out the pistons. It's going to push forward so that we can turn that into a single block stream. Then it resets and gets ready for the next one to get pushed in. Normally you'd be able to do this faster with like an observer setup, or some observers and repeaters, some observers, droppers to note that kind of thing. But in this dirt cheap version, we're using these piston feed tapes, again with a redstone block in there. This time not for counting, but for our actual power for our pistons. So we have run right here. And this side is going to push these pistons out. So this is going to activate those. When this pushes in here, it's going to power. It's going to update this note block. This piston is going to know that it's now quasi-powered. It's going to then push the piston out. And then this piston feed tape right here is going to run the block underneath the piston. And that's going to power it to then push out. And then at the end, we just have a smart piston pushing it all away. So let's see that again, but let's keep an eye on the piston feed tapes this time. So on the left there, we can see this redstone block is going to correspond to those pistons getting pushed into the line. And then this piston feed tape is going to push that block underneath the pistons, causing them to be pushed out. Then we have the timing that once that block gets pushed by the piston, this piston feed tape is going to move the redstone block forward one more before this next one gets pushed out, so the piston head's not in the way. Only useful in dirt cheap scenarios. This is not a new meta or anything. So we have again here the dirt cheap version of the water bottle dispenser, and then we're just going to put that dirt in there. It's going to shoot out another dirt block at the player, and that's going to go through. It runs over all these platforms with the dripstone on it to be slowly converted into clay. You can see this is all converted into clay because I left it for a little while, just sitting while I was working on other things, except for these sections here, which were not on top while it was paused. So it runs through all these platforms to give it a longer amount of time to be able to turn into clay. And then it comes here, gets pushed down into the block conveyor where it gets turned into a single block stream. The timings on this were edited a bit, again, so that we can make sure that we're still getting good blast efficiency. But here we go. This is about 23 TNT used per hour and about 208 blocks per TNT. So super efficient right there. And, you know, this one slows down a little bit because we're not putting in. You can see we have our input slowed down a little bit because, again, we want to give these blocks a little while to sit in. Normally, you'd be trying to push things as fast as possible, but when you've got the random tick of clay generation, then, you know, why bother? So this is going to be about 4,000 clay per hour and about 500 mud per hour. Now the mud you can put back in. I've included a switch here before you start placing in there because there are no on-offs on any of these. You just start placing the blocks to get it going. You just turn this on and then it will no longer spit out the water bottles and you can put the mud back in here. And then you get that same blast chamber efficiency. One of the things that I did start trying to take out, and this was kind of key because a lot of people mentioned that in their previous dirt cheap stuff they built is clocks were breaking and they weren't sure why. Well, the reason being is we used to use just sand on top of these pistons. And this works fine in most scenarios, but if I was to leave this area right at this moment right here, there's actually a chance this sand could break because this sand is an entity as it's falling, and that falls in a different set of chunks than the redstone processing. So this sand could be sitting in midair and then come at just the right moment where it gets broken. So we can see there, some of the sand got broken. It's a little harder to do right on this piston, but it can actually happen when leaving those chunks. So you've got to either keep the entire area chunk loaded inside entity loading, or I've started replacing a lot of these with monostable signals that just push blocks up and then another piston on top that will push it down. Now, all of that's got to be timing based. Each one needs to be timed out a little bit differently because obviously if the piston head up top is in the way, it can't push up and then it's just going to create a long pulse throughout the whole thing. Now, was that really necessary here because you have to have a player placing the mud? No. But I wanted to start trying to implement that more often because people did seem to have that issue quite often. Now, starting here is where I did not use my blast chamber anymore. I took a look at this. I did some work on it and tried to, there's just no way to get around it. So here's one of the key things I was talking about with why Mango's is better than mine is because once you reach the end here, that's where it pushes down. So if you don't have blocks that are getting put in and pushed down on that timing, they're going to be right here on the end. They won't be block 36. They'll be further away from the blast center. And there's a chance that it'll just build up to piston push limit. Then this will stay on. These pistons will all stay powered. This will start to back up. This will back up. This will back up until eventually the whole thing breaks. So that's why once I started getting into tree farms, everything that I was doing to make this different was just getting too close to Ilmango's layout here. So I just said, screw it. Let's just use the dirt cheap version of Ilmango's blast chamber here. So this is the dirt cheap-ish mangrove farm. And again, this is only dirt cheap-ish because we have to use 4 sticky pistons. Because we need to use logs to make sure that the tree can grow, that means we have to use sticky pistons to push those logs so we can push the mangrove logs. Just unfortunately no way around that. However, we're not using the same block conveyor because this can output randomly. So there is a little bit of a clock that is running on, and we slowed that down just a little bit so that we can ensure that we're not getting them still coming in too fast. But this is still faster than that block conveyor can actually run. So in this case right here, we're seeing it come in slow, but because this is getting spammed with bone meal, it actually can grow up significantly faster. So what we're doing is we're using this to split it up so that we have our 4 logs coming through, and then we're going to split that up into 4 streams, and then we merge all the streams into one. Using a couple of different types of smart pistons here and just offsetting the times of those. So right here is a fun one. We have a piece of redstone dust that is running up here but is getting blocked. But you can see block 36 doesn't actually block off redstone. So while that block is getting pushed, then it's allowing this redstone signal to connect. And then it sends a signal over here, but then it actually turns off that signal because then once it's not block 36 anymore, it cuts it off. So we're just making sure that we're offsetting those at all different times. And you can see we're actually right now getting a really steady block stream coming in. And then that feeds right in here to the dirt cheap version of Mango's blast chamber, and Bob's your uncle. What is What does Bob's your uncle even mean? I don't, why did I say that? Oh my gosh. Same thing here with the Dirt Cheapest Birch Farm. Now, I do have a revision on this, and I have a video that will be coming out soon where I made this dirt cheapish. So it's dirt cheap except for the 7 sticky pistons that we need. I took out the rest of the slime, all the observers, to make it fit the rest of that. But again, if you have pistons right next to a tree, it won't grow. So you need sticky pistons with logs so that the tree says, oh, I have logs around, I can grow. And then, yeah, it's a weird rule, but whatever. Trees are weird. We have the same thing, though. We have all of it being turned into block streams, except this time instead of 4 tall, it's possible 7 tall. So we have all those turning into 1. So we can see right here, after one gets pushed in, it's going to set all those pistons off at their offset so that it can merge into 1 block stream. So you can see up here is when it's going to push 1. Here we go. We have all this coming in. And then this is sending a signal to tell this to reset to allow the player to plant another tree when this is able to accept another one. So with all that kind of delay between these pistons and everything, so that we can get that 8 game ticks per block, yeah, we have to make sure that we don't plant another tree and then spam it up. So this just gets locked until this is ready to accept another set of logs. Again, I'm not going to go too much into this one. I do have a video on the super cheap version of this, but not the dirt cheap. I'm going to be doing a video on this update pretty soon as well. This right here is a playerless cobblestone farm. Don't build this one. So even though we have 2 of these block conveyors here, and there's still a break in the block stream that's going to come in, so I was going to add in just like another single module right here that was going to create 1 cobblestone and edit it. This is so over-engineered, it's ridiculous. Future Strom here. In the time in between when I recorded this and when I went to edit it, Ilmango recently released the module where he adds on the cobblestone generation in his blast chamber to his skyblock world. So that's going to kind of blow this out of the water, but I already designed this and recorded it, and you know what? I'm going to release it anyways. So instead of building this over-engineered version that doesn't exactly work the best because the timings are off, I have a different version right over here. So this is the farm. It's going to use 4 separate modules to generate that lava, and then it's going to just kind of merge those all in, and it goes offset. So here on our main timer, each time we go around this block, it's just going to set off a different set of the piston, right? But it's going to alternate. So it's going to go this side, then that side, and then that corner, and then that corner. So then back this corner and that corner. So let me turn this on here. We can see here it's combining from each other side. Here, same thing. You know, so those get pushed to get combined over here. The other thing is occasionally we do get a little bit of cobblestone out of it because of the timings. Because we're not using 0 ticks on these pistons, that means there is actually a couple of ticks where the lava is checked that can't flow. So sometimes you get the lava coming down before the water actually gets a chance to reach under there. So this is not a perfect stone farm, but again, you're blowing this up for cobblestone anyways. This is moving in too fast for the player to be able to mine because you're not having a fresh block beneath it at the time. So there we can see we're getting our cobblestone in. It's fine. With pushing block 36, you're going to have the same blast resistance anyways. So here you can see this blast chamber is a little bit more modified because this is a little more controlled. Now, I did just talk about those sand pistons. We do have a couple of them, but those only operate on the on-off. So once you flick the lever to turn it on, these will go up. Flick the lever to turn it off, those will go down. The rest of these that need their timings, these are just blocks that are getting pushed up, and then they'll get pushed back down based on timing. So this would not break if it was to go inside the redstone rendering chunks, not the entity rendering chunks. That would be fine. Now, this would. TNT is an entity, so you've still got to watch out for that. So this wasn't as vital as all that, but still something to keep in mind. So this is redesigned a little bit, but again, in order to more stabilize it, we just kind of took out the detection system. So this one's down to 200 blocks per TNT. Now that being said, this is 9K cobble per hour. This is 46 TNT per hour. I talked in a recent, cobble video of like, why wouldn't you just build Ilmango's 120,001? Well, again, I don't know. Because that one's pretty TNT efficient if you replace the TNT duper with just a dispenser. Can I think of any reason why this is better than that? Nope. But it's a different way, and you could do basalt as well. Basalt doesn't fit dirt cheap at all because you need soul soil in order to get it, and also blue ice. So silk touch And I mean, technically you can get, chat, let me know what you think down in the comments. Should ice fall out of the dirt cheap? Because technically you can get it from the Wandering Trader, which is just emeralds. It doesn't require silk touch then. It's still a rarity. I think it should stay out of dirt cheap, but let me know if you think that ice should be added into the allowed dirt cheap materials. But what started dirt cheap was people that didn't want to go into the nether and hunt for resources, so that means soul soil is out. So, but if you're willing to just throw in a little bit here, or you got a friend there, you can do basalt. And here I've done, you know, that same module. It's the same farm, just we replaced the water with the souls. If any of you out there know how to pronounce words correctly, contact me. I could apparently use the help. There's that soul soil and ice there. What would be the reason for you? I don't know. You could have a piston feed tape just going in a bunch of random directions until it reaches the blast chamber. So I don't know. Maybe you want to use like this for some deco. But then again, you could just make a circular piston feed tape that feeds the block. You know what? You do you. You do you. I just did this because we still have it. So it's the same efficiency, 9K, well, basalt per hour, 46 TNT an hour. But I mean, even on peaceful, there was a version that, what was it, like 2 million per hour? So all of that to say, all of these will be in the world download. A lot of this was about the fun of kind of coming up with a design for me and taking you through my design process on those. But at the end of the day, I'm going to recommend build Ilmango's version. And unless you have the need to be dirt cheap, you know, like you're in some kind of world that's restricting materials or some kind of personal challenge, just build this version right here. It's not expensive. You know, if you need slime, check out Swamp Slime Farms. They've kind of been revitalized with the light level changes that we saw. And so this is, I mean, it's not that much quartz either. You know, you go through a portal real quick, mine up some quartz. Quartz veins are pretty big. This is not bad at all. I hate ending videos with the recommendation to not build my stuff, but at the end of the day, you know, a lot of the sci farm designs I don't recommend for everyone because there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot that could break. There's a lot of very important setup steps that need to be met, a lot of requirements. You need to make sure that kind of everyone in the server is in on it because it's going to, you know, ruin the server if it doesn't operate correctly, those types of things. Those guys know what they're doing. And so this is just so cheap though, that at the end of the day, I have to recommend this one over mine. So I guess don't check me out anymore. That's going to be it for now. Again, down in the video description will be the world download where you can get all of these and you can take a look at them. If you just want to mess around with it and see what's going on for yourself, or you just want to maybe try and adapt one of your farms to use one of these blast chambers. And remember, if you got something getting you down right now, don't worry, it's okay not to be okay. Whatever the cause may be, whatever is keeping you down emotionally, mentally, whatever, it's okay not to be okay. Keep your chin up. Things will get better, I promise you. So in the meantime, just know that it's okay not to be okay. I'll catch you in the next one. Have a good one. Bye.